Hi, everyone. So, the crisis I chose to do was the University of Maryland. So, in 2018, a 19-year-old football player named Jordan McNair suffered a heat stroke at practice. He went to the hospital, and then 2 weeks later, he passed away as a result of the heat stroke. Um, Initially, the university did not respond to the public. Upon my research that I did, they did not have a crisis plan in place. They were basically completely unprepared. And on top of this, the athletic director, Damon Evans, had only had the position for a month prior to the situation happening. So, a little more background, the university continued on as if nothing happened following the passing of McNair. They did suggest that it was an isolated incident. However, in August, ESPN came out with a report exposing the head coach, DJ Durkin, for toxic culture inside the program, saying that they had forced players to go beyond their physical capabilities and they made fun of them if they could not carry on. They also forced unhealthy eating habits upon players who to gain weight, making them eat until they threw up. And then for players that wanted to lose weight, they would mock them with candy bars and junk food. And so, what really happened on the day that McNair went to the hospital? Well, it was clear that he was overworked and he was worked past his physical capabilities. The athletic training staff completely ignored his inability to breathe properly during and following practice. McNair suffered seizures in the locker room beginning at 5 o'clock, and then at 5:58 they called 911. So they waited almost a full hour until after he started having seizures. And so basically, the university, following this report, they suspended the coach and then they fired the strength and conditioning coach. And they announced that they would be investigating internally. 2 months later, they basically confirmed the ESPN report. They held up the suspension and they attempted to reinstate the coach to have him back whenever the suspension was over. However, there was some obvious backlash from the public and they fired the coach the next day. So the theories I apply to this, there's the image restoration theory where the university president, Wallace Lowe, he did publicly apologize, but this was 4 months after McNair had died. And so he also did not, this since he spoke before he had fired the coach, he did not blame the coach. He blamed the athletic training staff completely. He almost put all of the blame on them. And he basically had the mindset of "don't bring me bad news," which was quoted in the book. And then there's the decision theory. UMD attempted to satisfy, which was a result of them not being prepared. So they did the bare minimum. They attempted to use a band-aid solution of suspending the coach, thinking that that would satisfy. And they used the strength and conditioning coach as a fallout guy, basically saying, we're going to fire him, but it isn't the coach's fault. When obviously the coach is responsible for all the staff and everyone that's going on with the team, he's responsible. He should have been fired. And so there's also the diffusion theory in play. Everything that went wrong in this situation should be a learning experience for the university and how they can get better and how they can be prepared for the next crisis, because how they handled this was completely inexcusable. So the final recommendation I made for the university, they should have been upfront about the situation. They should have never hid behind the bad news that they had. They should have, from the point that McNair was enlisted in the hospital, and then obviously after he passed, they should have spoken to the public. Said any of the information that they had. Let them know that they're monitoring the situation. And I think that the coach should have been fired after McNair passed away. I don't know why that he kept his job after that. They also should have met with the family immediately after he was put in the hospital. I don't can't think of any reason why they didn't do that. It's very insensitive on their part. Them speaking indirectly to the family through the public, saying it was an isolated incident. They could have definitely put in more effort on that instead of speaking to the family 4 months after he passed away. And so, like I said, The head coach should have been fired. The entire coaching staff should have been fired because they're aware of what was going on and they didn't do anything about it. And the athletic training staff should have been fired as well because they completely ignored the seizures and the inability to breathe. It had been reported after the situation. The players were pretty open about wanting justice for McNair, and this played into him eventually being fired. After he was brought back, reinstated, the players basically said, we don't want to play for him. In the ESPN report, a parent said, excuse me, assistant coach said, "quote I would never let my son be coached there." So if you have assistant coaches who are anonymously saying that they would never let their kid be coached by the head coach, why would you ever keep the coaching staff around? So that doesn't make sense. And then basically, I thought that taking accountability, that's nice and all, but in a situation where someone passes away and something this tragic, I thought that it would be appropriate to have a plan of action. And so I suggested that they host courses at the university about managing players' health and safety. They do have a sports medicine program, so this would fit in well with what they do at the school. And, youth coaches up and on to professional coaches can attend, and it's just highlighting how to how to have relationships with your players so you know their limits and you know what they're capable of, and you're not just treating them like they're objects. And so then another suggestion I had would be to open a scholarship fund in McNair's honor for sports medicine students, basically saying, hey, we want to ensure that students that come to our university, we're going to put out the best athletic trainers to make sure this never happens again. And that whether it's here at this university or anywhere else, there will never be another situation like this, because we want to prepare athletic future sports medicine employees wherever they're at, to be fully prepared for any situation that happens and have the compassion to handle relationships with players and the people they're working with, whether they're athletes or just people that are doing regular exercise. And so that's all I had for my presentation. Let me know any questions you guys have in the replies. Look forward to watching you guys' presentations and hope you have a good summer.